Alright, so welcome to the Hangar Cafe. My name is RB, squad leader of 101 Squadron, and I'm here for my first guide and voice reveal. Now, a little disclaimer. I'm not an expert, but the tips that I'll be sharing here came from my own experience, and I'm continuously improving on the techniques and tactics that I'll be sharing to you guys. And with that being said, let's get on. Let's get on with this. So, how to become a brain pilot? Okay, so a quick definition of terms. According to the Finnish Air Force, yes, that legendary Air Force that stood its ground against the Rumpen Stumpen Red Army Air Force back in World War II. According to them, there are two kinds of pilots. You have the muscle pilots. Basically, these are the guys who fly by the seat of their pants. These guys fly into combat, fangs out, hair on fire, you name it, aka Maverick. And now for the brain pilots. These are the guys who, instead of doing aerobatics and match wits man to man in the dogfight, they actually try to ambush their opponents. They're basically hunters. So instead of simply charging in, these guys would stack the odds into their favor as much as possible. And then when the timing is right, they attack, and their targets usually won't be able to strike back. Of course, there are a few exceptions to the rule. So for muscle pilots, we have Lothar von Richthofen, the brother of the legendary Red Baron, and for the brain pilots, we have the legendary Red Baron himself. And then for the combination of both, we have Chuck Yeager and Robin Olds from World War II. Actually, Robin Olds was, well, let's just say he's a legend who served across 3 wars: World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. So, since you're watching this video, we're going to go with the assumption that you're already tired trying to match wits with the best of the best out there, and you simply just want to win. Now, we're not saying we're cheating, but let's face it, if your opponent is admittedly better than you and you still have the match to win, what should you be doing, right? Now, let's go over some basic ingredients. Bear in mind that these basic ingredients are very important regardless whether you're a muscle pilot or a brain pilot. So for the ingredients, we have the following. One is situational awareness. It doesn't matter whether you fly into combat, do all those aerobatics, or you pounce, you hunt your targets. At the end of the day, you have to have what we call situational awareness. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to take into account all possibilities. As a few folks have said before, air combat is not just about aerobatics, it's also a game of high-speed 3D chess. For the other ingredients, well, they're pretty much self-explanatory. First of all, you need speed, because at the end of the day, speed is life. And then the other thing, which is just as important, is firepower. You may have the perfect attack opportunity, You may have been able to outmaneuver your opponent, but if you don't have the firepower to finish them off quickly, you've just set yourself up for a trap. Of course, you did all the work for your opponent. Now, for the brain pilot, all three ingredients mentioned are very much important, but notice that maneuverability is not one of the main ingredients. The reason for this is that you're not expecting to get into a dogfight. You're there to hit your opponents fast, to hit them hard, and to get away before they can hit back. So let's go over some tactics. The first tactic is what we call boom and zoom. It's basically ambushing your opponents from an altitude advantage, or preferably somewhere where they don't know where you're coming from, and then you strike them hard and fast, and you're out of there before they can strike back. So classic examples of boom and zoom include striking from above, or in some cases, you're coming out of terrain cover, hitting them hard, and then running away. And bear in mind, while it's ideal that you bring down your targets in one pass, if you're not able to, you don't push a bad situation. You just run away as fast as your plane can carry you. So notice how everything involves speed and firepower. Because with speed, you can deny them the perfect firing solution at you, and then with firepower, you can potentially end things right away. And then of course we have situational awareness, which requires you, the player or the pilot, to be able to know your surroundings. Meaning, while running away, if your enemy shoots at you, you better know where you can duck into cover so that you won't get shot at. Or maybe, drag your pursuer into the loving arms and gun sights of your friendlies. Alright, so for the second tactic, we have what we call energy fighting. Well, on the surface, it looks like a mix of dogfighting and boom and zoom. But the reality here is that it's a bit more complicated. Of course, it involves maintaining your speed through turns, outsmarting your opponents, but basically it's all about getting the jump on them without them realizing it. So let's take a look at this clip from Bread. Yes, that's right. See that video here? He's on an F5. He was banking on the fact that the A6 driver that he trounced earlier has the hots for him, meaning he'll do everything he can to bring Bread down. So what does Bread do? He brings up that A6 up into the vertical where it would easily lose its airspeed. It was a gamble on his part, and it worked. Of course, these kinds of things, it takes a lot of practice and experience. And notice how that A6 driver was just trying to hang on for dear life before being brought down by Bread's teammates. Of course, there are other examples available, but this is one of the best examples that I've found so far. So, with those tips being said and done, I'll just share a rather old replay, one where I'm using the F-106. Generally, the F-106 in Metalstorm is considered to be one of the worst planes in the game. Well, worst as far as being usable or user-friendly, especially to newbies. But on the other hand, the F-106 is an honest plane. It demands that you respect its limits, and just like the F-104, in real life, if you respect its limits, it will reward you greatly. Of course, it just because you respect its limits doesn't mean that it would make things easier in a match. But you know how it is. It's like owning the sharpest knife in the kitchen. You respect what it can do to you and what it can do for you, and it will serve you well. And with that being said, yeah, I think that's just about it. So, nothing much more for me to say here except use your head, don't just charge in, and good hunting.